Jamie, good afternoon to you. Always good to get your view. We wanted to speak with you really on this kind of pay band thing. There's lots of rumours and perhaps some mischief around what nurses earn and how that wage can be increased and why it's below or why it's above and what the heck is going on here in terms of the pay structure. What's the state of play then if you want to begin to be a nurse as a career?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a lot of roles in the public sector, and you kind of get different pay bands and the length of time that you're in a role, you kind of progress up that. Although George Osborne, if you remember, about 10 years ago, was trying to cut public sector pay, and he started trying to limit kind of how much people can go up pay bands in some parts of the public sector, because when they put a public sector pay freeze, he was kind of puzzled as to why the public sector pay bill was going up, and that's in part, Ian, because people tend to start off on a certain salary. So around, if you look at the average for nurses, if you use the ONS figures, because they do a survey of lots of different occupations, the average is quite similar to the average for the UK overall. It's around 33,000, but there'll be a band within that. So you'll get some nurses who earn less than that, some nurses that will earn more than that, and your length of service can be a bit of an impact in terms of where you are. Now, I think you're talking about the pay increase today, the 17%. Now, obviously, it's an obscene amount to be starting to go in with a negotiation because it's unrealistic, because next week the government have got this 40 billion bill to kind of look in this black hole in the budget. And you've talked about, if you apply the 46% of the whole NHS budget goes on wages, and then if you apply, say, 17% to that overall, it is close to 10 billion. That's everybody who works in the NHS, not just the nurses. But if the government caved in here and gave 17% to the nurses, then the doctors and, the midwives, all other people in the NHS are going to be asking for it. So the government's not really got that money to be able to do this. So there does need to be some kind of compromise. But coming in with 17%, maybe it's the union starting with a high base.
Yeah, and I think we all understand that they start high and then they work down from there. But of course, what's always interesting about people asking for an inflation-linked increase, and this of course is well above the 10% inflation level, is that what happens when inflation goes down? What if we're down to 3% in 18 months' time? Will nurses be getting a pay cut?
Yeah, well, I think what we will see is inflation should come down in, because think about what inflation is. It's the change in prices over the course of the year. So take petrol, that went up quite a lot at the start of the year. Yeah. So when we get to February time coming up now, we'll be comparing the price of, say, petrol there to what it was in February this year. And it might actually be negative in terms of inflation for petrol, because prices may at some point be lower than the highs that we saw. So the OBR, I would expect to be seeing in their forecasts showing that inflation will come down. But I think the important thing is, that's the impact on the government. What's the impact on patients of a strike, I suppose, is the more important thing. So what we've seen over the last 25 weeks, Ian, is that we're seeing more deaths across the country. We've talked about it, the more you'd expect for the time of year. This isn't just all to do with COVID. If you're looking at younger people, say 30 to 59-year-olds, and heart issues is what's coming up. And if you look at the NHS waiting times figure, in the waiting lists, Ian, we usually have 0 people waiting for a heart procedure. It's never exactly 0, but it's close to 0 before the pandemic. We've got 5,000 people out waiting for heart procedures. Now, they might not be dropping dead tomorrow, but they could be. So cancelling elective surgery will inevitably cause people to die. And that's the big problem with this strike, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Jamie, thank you for that.